In the 1830s, Thomas Rice, a white minstrel entertainer, created a stage character named Jim Crow who mocked and belittled blacks. Later, Jim Crow became a name for the system of racial segregation that operated from the 1870s to the 1960s. Jim Crow laws, customs, and etiquette denied blacks basic human rights. This oppression was aided by thousands of material objects that portrayed blacks as negative caricatures.
The lecture that most people get when they come to the Jim Crow Museum is objective. They get the sociologist me. My graduate school professors would be proud. It is dispassioned. It is objective. In other words, it's killing me. When I was 12 years old, I saw a mammy piece at a flea market. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was probably a salt and pepper shaker, but I'm not certain. What I am certain of, however, is that I purchased the piece, which was cheap at that time, purchased the piece, and then broke it in front of the person. I don't think it was a philosophical thing. I think I just didn't like the piece. At some point, and I don't remember when, I started collecting the items and not breaking them. I remember in my teenage years always having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pieces. I have been collecting these racist items for over 3 decades. I've only been angry 3 times. On one occasion, which was in the mid-1980s, I came upon this piece. This piece was originally produced in 1916, and it shows a young black child softly caricatured. It is an ink ad, and if you look closely, you'll notice it says, "Nigger milk." On this occasion, I saw the piece. It cost $22, which for racist memorabilia was not very expensive. And I went to the clerk, and on the receipt she wrote, "Black print." And I said to her, "No, I want you to write what it says. It says nigger milk. I want you to write what it says. Please write nigger milk on there." She refused, and we had a little bit of an argument. Actually, I owe her an apology. Sometimes when people come in, I seem so detached, and they think that the material doesn't bother me anymore. But as this incident demonstrates, yeah, it continues to bother me. Black children are often portrayed as naked, not possessing modesty. They are presented as equivalents of animals. They are shown on all fours. They are ragged. The little boys are presented as miniature Sambos, the little girls as female Topsies or other pickaninnies. They are even sexualized. Here you have a child who appears to be 10 years of age, and yet she is shown pregnant. I've noticed when people come into the Jim Crow Museum that they have a need to create psychological distance. They do that primarily in 4 ways. Some people come in here, they go over and find the least offensive item in the museum, and then they say, "What's wrong with this?" They skip the other 4,000 pieces and they say, "Well, this is an image of blacks that's positive in some way." And then what some people do when they come in here, in order to create distance, what they say is, "Well, we never had it in our home. Therefore, this is irrelevant. I don't know about that. I've never seen this before. This is the first time I've ever seen it." Other people come in and they say, "You know what? These are items all produced 100 years ago, or 75 or 50 years ago." Again, trying to create some distance. What I say to them is, yes, but if you look closely, you'll notice that many of these items produced in here were produced in the last decade. Others come in, they go to the Klan material, and they think to themselves, "You see, I'm not a member of the Klan. I don't belong to some right-wing fascist group. Therefore, these items, they don't reflect who I am. They don't reflect how I think." And what I try to explain to them is this, that the Klan operates because of this. Without all of these images, you see, these are the fertile ground that produce the Klan. The Klan simply represents the far end of a continuum. The same continuum has Mammy and Sambo and Pickaninny at other points. Here we have an 1896 portrait of African American children. Look at them. You'll notice that they are naked. That nakedness implies that they're not as human. And it is summarized
and the bottom caption which reads alligator bait. The idea that blacks were bait for animals, especially alligators, has a long history in everyday material items. Here I have a pencil. Here we're making fun of African American people and also equating them with lower life forms. We have here a little African licorice drops advertisement. This is from the 1920s, but notice beneath it there is a tin piece which is a reproduction which was done in the past decade. There is a company in Ohio which makes these as we speak. It is very common for individuals to take old flat images of African Americans, negative racist images that were found on postcards, found on trade cards or labels, and then recreate them, for example, on mouse pad. In this shelf we have the so-called coon image, and we also have the Tom or Uncle Tom caricature. The coon shows blacks as being lazy and trifling, dumb. I think the prototypical Hollywood example of the coon caricature would be Step and Fetch It. I's a be going home now, boss. That is that old coon image which was born during slavery, like many of these images were, and just refuses to die. We also have the kind of Tom image or Tom caricature, and that is the caricature of black American men as being contented, loyal, happy, asexual servants. And we see that, for example, with Rastas of Cream of Wheat fame. There were over 2,000 Cream of Wheat ads. You'll notice that Rastas is almost always smiling. He is well dressed. He is clean. He is contented. But you'll also notice he has been desexualized. In other words, you rarely see his groin area. There's usually something blocking that area. He is safe. And I think that's the thing to remember about a number of the old caricatures, is that they were safe. The Tom caricature is the male counterpart of the Mammy caricature.
This is quite unusual. It is Aunt Jemima. The string and tab are what are always missing.
Okay.
Fun to wash. It's one of the famous commercial mammies. Not as famous as Aunt Jemima, but a famous one. Look at her lips. They're not red. Oh no. They're pink. She's happy. She's happy to serve, happy to stay in her place. When I grew up in Mobile, the black women go over to West Mobile and they clean houses. We had a term for it. It was called day work. And you see all the women going to day work. They sit out there waiting for the bus, going to clean somebody else's house. And I was around those women. My aunts were part of those women. And I can tell you this much. They never thought it was fun to wash.
They always depict the happy,
Right.
you know,
working servant kind of
yeah.
deal. Okay.
Right, she's still happy to be a servant. She's happy to be the slave.
Jim Crow images don't die. In the case of black Americans, new images are created all the time. This is a brand new item. I purchased it in a specialty shop. It's a beanbag. This is a prized collectible. I'm not sure what this is. You can see the fascination and repulsion with black sexuality here. I do a lot of sensitivity training sessions. The participants write 25-word placards.
I ain't got no money. I got a mother. Right.
I like to give them this banner, almost to a person, what they do.